Hello YouTube, welcome back to the Basement Card Collector. Today's video is going to be a TTM video, not a TTM return video, but just a how I send out a TTM and just kind of the process that I use to write them. This is just the way I've been doing it. I've been doing it for just about a year, getting back into it. Several years ago, like back when I was in middle school, high school, I sent out a few letters to people for autographs. I didn't know it was called TTM back then. I just thought it was called sending a letter to some people I'd like to get an autograph of. And that's kind of a mouthful, so someone shortened it down to Through the Mail Autographs. And if you're a new watcher to the channel or just coming across this by chance, TTM stands for Through the Mail Autographs. And I'd like to give you a couple tips, or not even tips, just the process of how I send out my TTMs. And I chose just a couple cards to showcase for a few good reasons. One, I thought I would showcase, here's two of my favorite returns. I have Andre Dawson, that came through the mail, 89 tops. And a really cool Mr. Bob Knight of those Indiana Hoosiers. They had a little basketball game last night and they beat a certain #1 ranked team at Assembly Hall. Got a Bob Knight through the mail. I wrote a letter, Bobby Knight sent that card back. I also have a couple other just random players I'd like to showcase. Here's head coach Mike Woodson. He was also at that game yesterday as the coach of the Hoosiers. And here he is as a player, as a former Indiana player. Sent those through the mail and those came back. And he also sent a really cool letter. Actually, he typed a really cool letter and signed a couple other cards. And it included a 5x7 autograph as well. And just two other, just random out of nowhere IU cards. Here, Steve Alford, former Indiana Hoosier legend there. He also signs and sent this back through the mail. And one of the greatest swimmers ever also came from Hoosier Town, Mr. Mark Spitz. And again, I sent these cards out and they sent them back as well. Through the mail autographs. We'll put him here, Mr. Spitz, and we'll put Mr. Alford over here. And speaking of the Super Bowl is happening in just a few, 1 week from this video being recorded. And I just grabbed a few former Super Bowl champs. Mr. Brad Johnson on the Buccaneers through the mail. Hall of Fame player Steve Atwater won a couple Super Bowls with the Denver Broncos. He is a great TTMer. And I chose two of my favorite 49ers. They came up a game short, but Tom Rathman, Roger Craig, great through the mail autograph signers. And then I chose a few coaches to stick in there. Mr. Barry Switzer, Super Bowl winning champ. Mr. Mike Holmgren, Super Bowl winning coach. And recently inducted Hall of Fame Super Bowl winning coach, Mr. Bill Cowher. So again, all types of players, coaches, you name it, and some sign through the mail. So here's how I send out my TTMs. First, you're going to have to find out who signs and who doesn't. And there are a few websites out there. I use Sports Card Forum, and it's just a website where people like me or you who send out to the athletes and coaches record their data basically. And so you get on and record what you sent, how many days it took for it to return. Did you get it back? Did they keep one? Did you send a couple? You just record the data and then people can get on the website and see who's signing. And it's really that simple. So you have to find a website. There are a few out there. This is just the one that someone showed me. I watched a video on YouTube and they recommended this site. So that's what I use. Sports Card Forum. Number 2, I write a letter. I write a letter to every athlete I send. It's usually about 1 full page. And you can see here's kind of the general form. I stick the date up in the corner. And then I have a 2, just like you would if you were back in 7th grade English. I give a little hello in this section. I kind of tell who I am, what I do. And then I always have a personal connection to whoever I'm sending. If it's coaching, like Bill Cowher, I mentioned how I also, you coach your children and you've been to games. I usually ask them, do you or did you collect cards from your playing career or your coaching career? Did you save anything? And then occasionally they answer back, like Chelsea Ross. He is an actor, but he played Mr. Ed Harris in the movie Major Leagues. And I asked him that same question. Did you save anything from your movies? And he responded back. He actually filled out back on my letter saying the only thing he saved from the Major League movies was his baseball cap. So I usually ask him a question or two, like, do you have a sports room? Do you keep your sports stuff? Then I also come down to the next chunk and then say, hey, today I'm sending you some cards. Please keep one or two, but it'd be super cool if you signed and sent it back and to add to my collection. And then I always thank them for their time at the bottom. Have a good year. Thank you for taking the time to read my letter and sign the cards if you choose to. And then I always say, something like along the line of, just the simple closing and then my name. So then we fold this up just like you practice back in middle school language arts. If you can think back to that, we had a class, letter writing. So then you get an envelope. You need 2 envelopes. Okay, you're gonna put your letter. Here's the one going to, so here's your athlete's address here in the center. You stick a stamp up here and you put your return address. You're going to need a self-addressed stamp envelope as well. So you're going to need 2 stamps to send out a request for a TTM. One on the outside, one in the smaller envelope. You just want to get a size. There are different sizes. You just need to make sure that it fits inside the large envelope. So letter with address and stamp, your address, return address. You're going to want to write really neatly. You'll have to find that address from your website. I usually include 2 index cards, mostly just to keep the cards safe. If I show you what I mean here. So if I would have put this Brad Johnson and the other Brad Johnson card, I usually send out 2 or 3 cards. I'm always let them say, hey, feel free to keep one. Okay, please keep one. Do you want one? Take one. And a lot of times they just send them all back. Sometimes they keep them, but that's their choice. So then we fold it like this. I kind of put the cards inside, 2 index cards. I usually throw it inside the self-addressed stamped envelope, so it's almost ready for them to go when they open it. Take my letter. This is how it looks inside. So you have the cards, the letter, index cards. Make sure that's stamped. That makes the athlete just have to sign their autograph if they're cool enough to do so, or if they have the time to do so. They throw them in that little envelope. You seal this baby up and it's ready to go. Okay, now for somehow, somewhere, index cards turn into this little cool little bonus. Like Hank Williams Jr. signed the index card. I mean, it's like an extra. I don't know how they know to do that or why they choose to do that, but not everybody does. It's more of just a personal preference. Dick Vermeil, Hall of Fame coach, just won it with the Rams. He's in the Hall of Fame also. He also signed the index card. So it's like an extra super bonus when you open up that envelope and you see extra autographs inside. Let's put that right here. And then at the end of the process, after you drop this baby off in the mail, you go on your website if you choose to do so and log in the send date. And then you wait, and sometimes you wait and you wait, which is kind of part of the process. And then eventually you go to your mailbox and you get 2 letters. And these are actually ones I'm going to open up on my next video, but they just go and you come back and you get those self-addressed stamped envelopes, and that's all that comes back. And then here I have one from New Orleans. And again, just to show you how this works, I have Nancy Kerrigan. She also signed the card and sent this card back. Super cool. And then I have one I just got back, a Heisman Trophy winner, Mr. Andre Ware, on that pro set. Super cool card, but it came through the mail. And again, we're going to open these up. So this is kind of the end process. Starts out like this. and all of those steps. And if you have questions on this, I'm not an expert by any means, but I do love sending these TTMs out. And I usually try to send, I don't know, 3 or 4, maybe 5 out a month, just to make it kind of keep them coming in. And that's my process. Start with the get a website, get some addresses. You're going to want to see who's signing and who isn't. And then you're going to want to find some cards or 2, or depending on who you find. Some guys are 1 per, some players have a fee and a donation, which is also cool. I mean, these coaches are super cool to do this. Most of them are for free. And so it's just what I just think it's a really cool hobby, and it really costs you the time of digging through and finding the players you like or the teams you want, finding an address, a few stamps, a couple envelopes. I handwrite the letter. It takes a little bit of time, but I feel like it's worth the time. And then you play the waiting game, and every now and then you get a couple back, and it's just super cool. It's like a Christmas morning feel. Unless you can remember the city like this. I don't know who went to Atlanta Metro. I don't know who's going to be in here, but I can't wait to open it. Same thing for New Orleans, Louisiana. I've only sent maybe 1 or 2 to New Orleans, and so I have a guess of who's inside here, but you just never know. And so that is how I send out my TTM requests through the mail autographs. And if you have questions or if you want some help, I can help you with what I know. It's just been a super cool hobby, and it's a really relatively easy hobby, super cool, and it's worth the wait. And I got 2 right here that I can't wait to open. So we're going to get to that next video. But thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.